Oops, it says recording stop.
All right.
Recording in progress. Nice. Okay. Just to double check. And
Yes, Doc. Yes. Yes.
Yes, you might start, Dr. Adel.
all right. Amira says yes. Iris M says yes. Amun says yes. Okay. Claude says yes.
Wonderful.
Okay. So before I start, I just want to say that today is a very special day for me, in the sense that I've been in ELI for more than 10 years now, or just around 11 years. And this is going to be my very last workshop at the ELI. I'll be moving on somewhere else, but I want to enjoy this to the very last. So welcome everyone, nice to see you. And I know that there are members of the English Language Institute from King Abdulaziz University in the room right now. Are there any others other than the ELI being represented here? You can just type it in the chat, or you can just say it in the mic. I love it when I have an idea of who is in the room. Anybody from maybe the Faculty of Engineering, perhaps, or maybe somebody from outside KAU. Anybody? Okay, you can type it in the chat whenever you can, and I'll see it. So, all right, you have a PhD student from the Faculty of Engineering. Nice, welcome, welcome. Jalila, another PhD student. Nice, Khulud from ELI. Awesome, great. Jalila in Applied Linguistics. Hey, I have one of my masters in Applied Linguistics, so it's an awesome field, Jalila. I'm pretty sure you're having a great time. PhD in IS from Dalal. Some MA in Applied Linguistics. Hey, a lot of my people here. ELI, Zoom user. All right, nice to see you all. Let's get started. Our session is about writing critical reviews, and as you may know, that this is regardless of which field you choose, there's always going to be some element of writing a critical review, either as part of your coursework or like either when you start reading for your own research, you have to do a lot of critical review, whether you write about it or not. To specifically sure and how it's written. Let me see, there's one from the PhD in chemistry iPhone. Nice. So before we start the session, just a little introduction. My name is Adel Abdurehman. I have an MA in English and another MA in Applied Linguistics. I also have a doctorate in education, specializing in TESOL, that's the teaching of English to speakers of other languages, from Exeter University, UK. I'm CELTA qualified. I think we might need to mute somebody's mic here. Yeah, good idea, Rawan. Yeah, is that from Toshiba? Okay. And I'm also a certified trainer of trainers. My licenses are one is from Norwich and another one is from Cambridge. I'm also an IELTS examiner. I have a lot of years of teaching experience. Well, now it's more than 16. I wrote this a while ago. I started around 2003, so now it should be 19. Oh man, we need to update our CVs. And I've published a lot of papers. If you just Google my name, Adel Abdurehman, you can find my papers easily. And last but not least, I love learning languages. And here is a list of languages that I speak. So that's enough about me. Now let's move on and talk about the topic. And the topic is writing critical reviews. And we're going to start off by looking at the aims of the workshop, and towards the end, we will do a review of our aims, whether or not we achieved these aims, and if we did, to what extent, okay? So here goes. By the end of the workshop, we will have learned the purpose and structure of a critical review, and we will have practiced writing parts of, reviewing parts of academic texts critically. because I strongly believe that my sessions should not only be about me talking and you listening. I should actually put you folks to work where you can use your the information that we talk about in this session. Because as we know, there are 3 levels to knowledge. The second is to understand it, and the third is to actually apply it. If you understand it but don't apply it, that means you still need to do something to get where you want to get. Okay. I want to start off with a small story about a movie critic. You know, there was a movie critic who was fired by the magazine he worked for. And the reason given by the employer for the dismissal was that his movie reviews were not high quality. The critic sued the magazine because he said that my dismissal is unfair. Now, in the courtroom, the lawyer for the magazine won the case. How? By the way, hi to Rida, welcome. So how did the magazine win the case? During the court proceedings, the lawyer read out loud the last movie review written by the critic. Do you want to see the movie review written by that critic? The review that got him fired? Here it is. He said about the movie, "It stinks." Do you think that's an appropriate, or even, can we even call that a movie review?
I don't so.
I want this story floating around in your head as we work, because this brings up the question of, okay, if this is not a movie review, what is a movie review? So the same token, when we read an article or a book and I say, hey, I like it, or I don't like it, it's awful, could that be considered to be a appropriate? And Adel says it's subjective, right? Okay, excellent point. And we're going to get to that. You're already, mashallah, you hit on something there. Abir says it's not constructive. Good point. And Rida says it's negative. Arub says it's just personal opinion. All right, awesome. So I can see that we already have the foundations of the idea that ideas we'll be talking about. Hassam says, what about the form? We're getting there. Good question, Hassam. Amira says, we need to support it with evidence. Perfect. As you will see, before we do that, let's talk about this, because this is connected with what we just talked about. Critical review or criticism, are they the same thing? I'm going to put 2 questions on the screen right now. Let's see. Is a critical review for a book or article the same as criticizing it? If yes, no. That's question number 1. I want you to have in your mind. Question number 2, when you are reading a critical review, what do you expect to get out of it? So I'm going to keep this on the screen. If anybody wants to write any ideas in the class chat, go ahead. And if you want to open your mic and share your ideas, you're welcome to do so. Well, let's give this a minute.
I think for the first question, critical, there is a difference between critical review and criticizing. Usually in a critical review, we have fruitful feedback. This means we can mention the good points and the bad points for constructive reasons. But when we talk about criticizing, maybe we just mention the bad points, and it is not as constructive as critical review. This is for number 1. So when we read the critical review, we expect to evaluate our product and avoid the bad points and build on the good points.
Good point. Thank you so much for sharing, Rilla. Excellent points. Nice. Okay. Let me see, there are some more ideas here. Ahmed says, it depends on how we define criticize. Good point. Oh, sorry.
قالوا له مالي سووا اليوم انا لا الفلاني انا عند غني عند ما اقدر احدد.
I think there's a problem somewhere, maybe. Does that need to be muted? Okay. All right. I was here with Hind. Great point, Hind. Thank you for that. Khulud says for question number 2, I might get the strengths and weaknesses. Amira says no. Critical review is both positive side and okay, both sides got it. Criticism is exclusively negative. Ahmed says it's different. Okay, it should have a purpose. All right, awesome. And we will build up on all of these ideas. It's great to see that we have the seedlings of all the ideas that we're about to talk. We're about to hit. Okay, let's see. I found this excellent description on the University of Southampton website. It says, to be critical does not mean to criticize in an exclusively negative manner. To be critical of a text means you question the information and opinions in the text in an attempt to evaluate or judge its worth overall. That's a great description, isn't it? Because that's what we're doing. And when we ourselves write a critical review, we will always have this at the back of our minds. I think I missed one from Arub. It said that to understand the concept in many ways. All right, thank you for that, Arub Ubaid. So let's keep it rolling here. Let's keep it rolling. Just one last point before we move on. A critical review is not the same as a literature review. And as simple as that sounds, I do think it's worth pointing out, because the reason that sometimes people get a little mixed up in terms of definition between the two is that when we say writing a critical review, that means specifically to take one specific article or a bunch of one or two or article. If it's comparative, it could be more than one, but usually it's only one article or one book, and we follow certain steps to review it, the steps that we'll talk about today. On the other hand, a literature review is much more comprehensive, and it is part of a study. It could be a dissertation, it could be just an academic article. And the purpose of the literature review is just going to be addressed by the study that is being conducted by the person writing the article. Okay, I just wanted to put that there. Just 1 second. Okay. Now that we have that out of the way, let's keep it rolling. Deconstructing a critical review. Okay. I'm going to put a sample critical review on the screen. Okay. I'm going to put it on the screen, and I will give you about 2 or 3 minutes. Okay. And after that, I want you to tell me its strengths and weaknesses. Okay. And then we will see which areas we will hit in more depth. Okay, so let me just put this sample critical review on the screen. Okay. Can you see the review on your screen now, everybody?
Yes.
All right, cool. So I'll put the timer on. In fact, let me try to share the whole screen. That way you can also see the timer and have a good idea about how much time is remaining. So just 1 second, please. Share screen. So now you should see my whole screen, right? You can see my whole screen now, everybody?
Yes, doctor. Yes.
Timer? All right, so I'm giving you 3 minutes. Let's go. Read the critical review and make a list of its strengths and weaknesses. And then you can start typing it in the chat when the time finishes, not right now, because I want everybody to let the ideas cook in their own minds in their own way. So no chat for now. Yeah, Hassan, you have a question?
Actually, it's not a question, but I just finished listing the positives and the negatives.
Okay, all right. We'll have a look at them when the time finishes. Thank you so much for that, Hassan. Appreciate it. Okay. So let's check our ideas now. I will open the chat and let's make a list of our ideas. Let's see. Okay. I want to make sure that I can see both of them at the same time. So here you go. Okay, I got it from Rida. This is, wait a minute. That's where it starts from. Okay. Rahman says it has many weaknesses. Rida says the word popular. It's negative. It's a false analogy. Ma'arib says the title of the article and author were not mentioned. That's a good point, right, everybody? That is something that we need to have in a critical review. You have to tell the people what this review is about. Okay? So the use of a lot of subjective words, okay, not proven or scientific, like I think and fluffy, using their feelings to evaluate without providing evidence, reference to outdated source, use of general words. Excellent points, Madam. Thank you so much for that. I have something from Amira. Didn't write the name of the article and details, and it sounds emotional. Strength supported some of the argument with an example. Okay. Rahmat says vocabulary choices, sentence, grammar, and a lot of I. Okay. Amar says, I don't like it. Rabi'i says weakness, it is subjective. There are mistakes in grammar. Was from a personal view. They're being too direct, using the subjective pro I. Harsh language, the title is missing, too subjective. Is it only me viewing this as an attack and not? Good point, Ahmed. Good point. Yeah, this doesn't sound so much like a critical review, but it sounds more like an ad hominem attack. Yeah. Point of personal issues not related to current article. Yeah, that's a good point, right? Why is he talking about the article that the author wrote 15 years ago on a completely different topic? So yeah, no connection. He did not elaborate on the specific reason of his disagreement with chapter 3. That's another point we'll be hitting on a lot. When you are writing a critical review and when you're giving either positive or negative points about a specific section, you have to tell the readers what the original author is saying there. Well, we're going to hit that. So good point there. Yeah, it also says it's subjective. Focus on the negatives. Strength, Hassan says, giving examples. And it's a good thing that he's at least telling us about a specific problem at a specific place. Arif gives it a star. It's a personal opinion. Negative. Okay. Vimanto says non-academic. Not supported by other research. Maran says it's negative, I think. Okay. Yep. And Shah says didn't suggest any solutions. That is something else we're supposed to do in a critical review. So I'm going to stop it right there. Thank you so much. We might come back to this one later, maybe, but the important point is that we'll actually be developing the points that you all raised. Okay. So let me put this down. And let's go back to the slide. Share the slide. Okay. So I think you can see my the slide again, right? Okay. All right. So the sample we looked at, that was in the form of one paragraph only, right? And some of the, in fact, most of the issues that we raised about the weaknesses in that specific review could be solved if we divide it into different parts, okay? Before we actually look at the like a suggested structure that I'm going to show you, I want to make one thing absolutely clear, that when you get a review for a specific journal or as an assignment, which is part of your university studies, there will always be some guidelines, okay? So always double check the information you have here with the specific guidelines and requirements for specific journals or university assignments. But I can guarantee you, there's not gonna be too much divergence here, okay? What we need to have in a critical review is we need to have an introduction section. We need to have a summary. We need to have an evaluation section. And of course, last but not least, we need to have a conclusion, all right? So we will look at each of these sections closely regarding what we should be doing here. So let's start off with the introduction. What are we supposed to do in the introduction section? Well, we have to identify, as you pointed out, all of you, in your comments regarding that sample critical review that we looked at. You have to identify the author. You have to identify the title of the article or the book. You have to identify the main topic. You have to identify the author's purpose. And lastly, you have to give restatement of your evaluation of the text. Do you think it's mostly positive? Do you think it's mostly negative? Or is it mixed? And obviously, in most cases, it's always going to be mixed, right? Let's talk about the sample that we just looked at. You know, apparently the only thing relevant that the reviewer wrote there was that he says that I don't agree with the ideas regarding teaching vocabulary. So apparently that original article that the reviewer critiqued was about teaching vocabulary, right? So let's just say if we were to write section for that, this review looks critically at the article Teaching Vocabulary in L2 Classes by author, I don't know, Adel, Abdurehman. You can give the date and you can mention the purpose. That the purpose of the article was to prove or disprove if using pictures in elementary classes improved students' performances in their quizzes. Okay, so that's the author's purpose. And then you can go on and mention your overall impression of it. You can say that having looked at the different sections, there are some weaknesses, although overall it has many strengths, which will be talked about below. That is the structure of an introduction in a critical review. Okay. We'll move on to the second section, but any specific questions or any comments about the introduction section so far? Okay. Ahmed says all is good. If anybody has any questions at any point, please point it out. I would either address it immediately, or if it is something that is coming down the line, we'll look at it later. But I'll always be happy if you can bring up the questions that you have for everybody's benefit, okay? The second part is the summary. Now, welcome to the class, Ev. I see you here. Now, the thing to remember about the summary is that it is only a springboard for the real thing. The summary is not the real thing, right? Okay, let me just pause here. Rubai says, what's the difference between the title and the main topic? The title is actually the name of the article or the name of the book, which is printed on the top. And the main topic is like, what is it about? In most cases, it could be interchangeable, right? For example, teaching vocabulary to L2 classes. And in some cases, there might be a little bit more detail when you describe the topic, because they cannot make the title. I hope that addressed that question, Rubai. You can come back to it towards the end again if you want to. So we said about the summary that it is only a springboard for the real thing, your evaluation of the book or article. That's the real thing, your evaluation. The summary, why do we even write the summary? Okay, let me just read this off. Let me see. Therefore, keeping the word count in mind, keep it concise without excluding anything crucial. 1/3 of the evaluation could be a good yardstick. Okay, so I mean, just to give a very, very overly simplistic example, if your evaluation section is 3 paragraphs, then try to make the summary only 1 paragraph. Or if we count by words, if your evaluation section is 3,000 words, your summary will be 1,000 words. Okay. As for the overall word count, welcome, Abdurehman, my namesake, my half namesake. Happy to have you here. As for the overall word count, there is no minimum, there is no maximum. It is always contingent on the requirements of different journals or different university assignments, okay? So, okay. This is Yahya from Africa, Sudan. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Another point, which sounds simple enough, but it is worth mentioning. You can only write a good summary if you have a good understanding of the text. If it is a short article, read it more than once. If it is a long article or a book, keep detailed notes while reading. And I cannot stress this enough. This is a very, very important point. And trust me, if you read an article once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, or if it is too long and you just took notes, okay, detailed notes, if you go over your notes again and again and you refer back to the original article, you will be surprised at how many different doors and windows open in your mind. So if you want to get that big moment of aha erlebnis, then you have to read the article. Mahmoud Sufi from Syria, welcome, welcome, welcome. Nice to have you here. We have a big international presence today, huh? Saudi Arabia, Sudan, France, Syria, happy. Okay. Your notes, by the way, what do your notes consist of what? Look at this. Your notes should consist of both points to summarize and your initial reactions at the time of reading. That's important. It's not just a question of highlighting parts that you think you will put in your summary. It's also very important to write your initial reactions, okay? Whether or not you agree with this later or not, that's up for debate for yourself, but you have to write your initial reactions. For example, when I was reading that point about in the sample review that the writer said something about the use of drugs in racehorses, it hit me immediately. So I should make a note of that. What is that all about? Maybe the reviewer and the author have a personal animosity from the past. I don't know, but I just should make note of that. Khulud has a point here. Let me take that before I move on. How can I decide on one? If the choice is mine, how can I find a good article to write a critique about? How to choose an article, you mean? Okay, all right. Khulud, I'm gonna address this in the question answer session. Okay, let me make a note of this. Let me make a note of this so that I don't forget. But you should also remind me in the question answer session. Okay. I'm just making a note of it right here. I'm opening a text document. Okay. Article to choose from Khulud. Okay, I've made a note of that. Khulud, we'll come back to this, okay? All right. Thank you for that. Let's keep moving. Just a minute. Yeah, and the last point, of course, is like a self-explanatory, but still important to mention. Your summary should allow someone who has not read the overall message. Your review will be completely useless if your readers don't know what the original author is saying. You have to make that clear. You have to give the author that voice. Otherwise, your review will be worth nothing. Okay? So that's all about the summary. And I found this to be very, very useful from the, this is from the website of the University College London. Okay, Hannah says, should I focus only on negative things? Excellent questions, Hannah. We're gonna talk about this in the next section, in the evaluation section, okay? Thank you for that question. So here are some specific sentence starters that you can use in the summary section. And I think these are excellent. You can just copy paste them, and these give you a very good structure. I'm not gonna read all of them, but let's just look at the first 2 or 3, for example. This section or book is divided into 2 or 3 parts. Okay, the second one, the tone appears to be blah, 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 whatever, okay? the first claim or the second claim is based on blah, blah. The author challenges the notion. So this is, since this this PowerPoint slide will be available for download later, so I highly encourage you that you can just copy paste these sentence starters from the PowerPoint itself, or even better, you should go to the UCL website. The link is there. When you click on it, it takes you to the original website, which gives you even more sentence starters. I think that these sentence starters also give you a very good start point, a departure point from where you can start constructing the summary section of your critical review. Okay. Look at this one, the last one. I like that. Okay. The author notes claim, the author notes claim, oh, the wording is kind of awkward here, but whatever. The author claims blah, blah remains vital if blah, 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 blah. Okay. So yeah, follow the link. That's all I have to say about the summary section. Any questions about the summary section before we move on to the evaluation? There's one question from Hannah, which will be addressed in the next section, in the evaluation section. Rawan says it's all clear. Okay, let's keep moving. Now, part 3, evaluation. You know, in the previous section, I said that the summary section is just a springboard for the real thing, the evaluation. So now we have arrived. Now we talk about the actual review, right? Because in the introduction, we were just writing the details of the author. In the summary, we were just giving a summary of what the author had written in the article. Now our job starts now. So first of all, when we say evaluation, yeah, Rida, completely agree. Yeah. Omar says, should the summary be the second section of the critical review? Yes, Omar. That is one. This is one structure. Okay. Introduction, summary, evaluation, conclusion. So yeah. Even though, Omar, there are people who follow a different style. Some people, they don't write the whole summary together. They do it point by point. They keep going back and forth. They give a little summary of one part, write their evaluation of that. Then they move on to, they give a summary of the second part. That's called the point by point technique. I'm not going to touch that. If you just understand this structure, then the point by point also follows the same basic principles, okay? So the short answer to your question, Omar, was yes. Now, my question for everybody, when we say that we are going to evaluate an article, we're going to write a critique of it. Can you tell me in one short sentence what that means? I am evaluating this article. What am I doing? Okay, rating it, discussing its value, judging it.
Yes, please.
Yeah, let me see who's this.
Yes, Mahmoud.
Hala Mahmoud Sufi, go ahead, tell me.
Yes, good evening, everybody. When evaluating an article, I can judge on this article. In other words, I'm trying to judge each element of it.
Nice, thank you so much.
This is in general, yeah.
Yeah. We just needed a brief one, so thank you for that. Mr. Rabi' mic is open now. Yeah.
Doctor, I think, Doctor, to give each point, give it your opinion about each point in the article.
Good point. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Mr. Rabi'. I'm sorry I don't know your first name, so I'm addressing the family name. Let me look at the chat here. Okay. Says marrying it. Madhab says critiquing. Ghadir says we'll look at the strengths and weaknesses. Okay. Rida says assessment and suggesting adjustments. Juma says put on a scale. Nice one. I do that to myself every day, not because I'm critiquing myself. I just want to know how fat I am. Rawan says giving an objective opinion about the paper. Samia says, evaluate is to highlight its strengths and weaknesses. Nice, nice. Omar says, analytical view, iPhone's points for modification. Overall, give a critical overview from Khulud, yeah. Shuma compared to specific criteria. Fawzia says, reflect on it. Harub says, set the value of the article. Iris says, to see if it deserves to be read or only some lines. Good point. Rida says, looking for a niche. And Abdurehman says, assessing and rating. Thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate I love it when everybody's involved. So let's move on with the slide now. I'll take one more from Ahmed Siraj. I'll look at the others later. To evaluate means to give positive points, negative points. Thank you so much for that, Ahmed. Let's see here. I think you have already hit the nail on the head, all of you. Here it is. To evaluate something means to identify the strengths and weaknesses and notable features of the text, okay? So basically, you have all already explained that, okay? We have to look very closely at the author's claims. That's the most important part. The kind of evidence that the author is using and how the claims are supported. Is he using controversial theories? Because, for example, if an author shows you the data and says that, so this data shows that according to the tenets of the grammar translation method, this is excellent. Now, that's a controversial theory. The grammar translation method, for those of you who are in the English language teaching field, that has been out of fashion for decades now. So saying that following grammar translation method to the exclusion of other methods is a controversial idea here. So we have to be careful of that, because just because an author says something does not automatically make it right. You have to keep comparing that to the general consensus in academia regarding that point, okay? Marib says, can we say that a literature review is like an critical review? Marib, yes and no, okay? And mostly I would say no, because the whole purpose is completely different. The whole purpose. In a critical review, we are only concerned about the merits and demerits of this specific paper. And that's the way we write it. In a literature review, we are specifically locating a gap in the whole field that we are going to fill with our study, okay? So different things. You're most welcome. And I cannot stress this enough, everybody. This one, I cannot stress this enough. Always look at the connection between the data and the conclusions drawn from them. And let me give you a specific example of this. And this is a true story because it happened to me myself. One of my MA students, they submitted as a matter of fact, it wasn't one of my personal students, but like from our program, and they wanted me to review their paper before it was published, okay? And it was basically about the depiction of women in ELT books. Specifically, they had taken one specific book and they had critically reviewed the depiction of women in that, okay? And the conclusion that she on was that that women are mostly depicted negatively in this book, in this English textbook, okay? This was the conclusion. And do you know what that idea, sorry about that. And do you know what that idea was based on? Do you know what was the proof that they brought up? They said that in many of the pictures of women in that book, you can see the profile of the women from the side. That means the pictures are not like front facing, like a passport picture. They show women from the side. Now, I happen to know that book very well because I have taught it. And in most cases of pictures, publishing scenes in cafes and banks and different kinds of places that two people are standing facing each other and we are looking at them. So obviously we'll be looking at the women from side, just like the men. So I felt that the connection between the data and the conclusion that the author had drawn was, let's just say, not academic enough. So always be careful about what kind of conclusions the author is drawing and from where they are basing it on. What is the author making a connection between their conclusion and their data? If yes, well and good. If not, there is a problem. Okay, let's keep going. You also have to highlight the effective parts and not so effective parts of the book or the article. Yeah, Hassan, that's right. Avoiding bias. Yeah. And when you say which parts are effective and which are not effective, you have to mention specifically what makes them so. Okay. It's not just saying that the author did this and that was excellent. No, you have to mention why that was excellent. Okay. And this is something that many of you highlighted earlier, right? You can also include recommendations for how the text can be improved. For example, I mean, going back to the sample we looked at, where the author said that section is the worst, I would suggest to the author that you should tell me what the original author said. You know, that's recommendations on how the text can be improved. Okay, I want to, yeah, Juma, you have to justify your idea. Exactly. I want to mention some specific questions regarding the evaluation section. Specifically, when you are writing a research-based work, I want you to keep these questions at the front of your mind. Questions to consider for different parts of a research-based work. Okay. Khulud says, shall I divide my evaluation sections into paragraphs based on these ideas? You know, like if it's a research-based work, you can do that, yes. In the previous ones, no. You can mix it whichever way you want. Okay, these are just some general ideas about the evaluation section. As far as a research-based article is concerned, yes, you can write a specific paragraph for each one. And let me show you what I mean by that. For example, you have to write something about the structure of the article of the book. Is it well organized? Is the flow logical? Is there reader guidance? Meaning that when I am reading that article, is it easy for me to follow the thread of the argument of the author, or am I getting lost? Okay. For example, maybe the author writes the entire article and at the very end, like talks about the significance of their study. That's not the right place. That's not the logical flow, right? About the literature review. Has the author identified a gap in the literature? Remember, if the author has cited 200, 300, 500 different studies in their literature review, but they did not identify a gap, that is not a good literature review. Okay, that means they just reviewed the literature in general. When we say literature review for an academic article, for a research-based article, he or she has to identify a gap. Okay, like something that is not either not available in current literature or we need more, something like that. Okay, so you can make a paragraph of the field. Is the study justified? Does it have a valid answer for the most important question? Why is conducting this study important? Because just because I have an idea about conducting a study in my mind does not automatically mean it's worth doing. I have to justify like what kind of contribution I'm going to make in the field. Okay, so when you are writing a critical review, ask yourself that: is this article going to add something significant in the field? Yes or no? Juma says, gap between what and what? Juma, it's not a question of a gap between what and what. It's a question of, for example, in my classroom, I have some blind students, for example, okay? And I want to know what kind of audio I can use in my class that should be optimum for blind students, okay? And I want to know, like, how can I balance my listening activities that they are equally good for blind students and for those students who can see. And when I go to the literature, I see that there is a lot of material for people who can see. There's a lot of research specifically about blind students, but there are not enough studies which tell me how to use listening activities or how to choose audio files based on a class that has both blind students and students that can see. That is a gap in the literature, something missing, something I cannot find, or something that is available but not enough, okay? Something that contributes in the literature. Gap, oh, Muhammad, thank you so much. Gap in literature which hasn't been researched yet. Good. Rida said the same thing. Thank you so much. Okay. A specific question to answer about the methodology section. Is this kind of methodology appropriate for this research question? Now that's really important. Let me give you another specific example from my own experience. You know, somebody wanted to research whether or not using a specific kind of activity was beneficial for students, yes or no. Okay, let's just go back to the vocabulary teaching example again. And they wanted to investigate whether or not using pictures in the class is effective. Now, the appropriate research design for that is an experiment. You have two different classes, okay? One class is taught without using pictures, for example. The other class is taught using pictures, okay? So, and then, I mean, in the beginning, you take a pre-test, and then later you take a post-test, and then you compare how much difference there is between the pre-test and the post-test. That is the appropriate methodology in this case. If, on the other hand, the researcher only and only interviews the teachers and asks for their opinions, that might not be like such a good choice there. That's right. Experimental design. Fawzia says pre-test, post-test design. That's right. Hassam says, yes, there can even be a delayed post-test. That makes your data even more valid, you know, and more robust. Excellent point. The choice of methodology. The results. Is the data analysis easy to understand? Are visuals used when needed? That's important, okay? You know, a lot of times it's so easy to follow the literature review and the methodology, but when you start reading the results, this is like the most dangerous part for writers. You know, a lot of writers, they start using a lot of jargon, and that is where they lose a lot of readers. So very important to consider that are the results easy to understand, yes or no? Madib has a question. Would it be a good idea to write a critical review of an article that you find has been frequently cited in literature, but yet that study was very weak? Yes, Madib. Yeah, I think that is an excellent subject, you know, taking an article like that and writing about its strengths and weaknesses is awesome. Yeah. And that is what, by the way, most master's and PhD students do. When they have that as an assignment, like writing a critical review, they always choose those kind of articles. So that's really good. Never ever be intimidated by the number of citations that a study has. You know, there's always room for critiquing it. Muhammad says, what is the best statistical equation for pre and post test? Is it okay if we only do paired sample t-test? You can, yeah, Muhammad, job designs. There is no best or worst, you know, but as far as you have more than one groups, okay, and as far as you do a pre-test and a post-test, you are on safe ground, okay? Just for one, if you're doing it for one, I strongly suggest having a pre and a post and a delayed post-test, okay? But as you dive into the literature, you'll see more and more on that. And obviously, if it's one group, then it's going to be a paired sample t-test, you know? Yeah. All right, Hassam says, I believe it depends on the hypothesis. Yeah, exactly, Hassam. That's a good point, yeah. It depends on your null hypothesis, what you're trying to prove. That will address it to a large degree. Thank you for that. Okay, the discussion section. You know, a lot of students told me when I used to interact with my MA students that the discussion section is usually the most challenging. And I don't blame them because it depends on how you structure your article. In many cases, people just merge their results and discussion, but it's highly recommended that you keep them separate. What happens in the results section is that you only describe the data. And in the discussion, you answer the research question and you talk about the conclusions that you have drawn from the data. Okay, so did the author do that? Yes or no? That's the $1 million question. So that's all for this slide. All I want to say, just a minute. All I want to say is that, oh yeah, the conclusion section. Is it possible to understand the most important points of the study from the conclusion? If yes, then the author did a good job. If not, then no. As I said earlier, that when you download this PowerPoint, I highly suggest that you have this slide bookmarked. And, you know, like as you are critiquing an article or writing about it or whatever, and you're taking notes, keep these questions, these $1 million questions in front of you. I think it's going to be highly beneficial for you, okay? And, okay, let me take a question from Marib before moving on. What would call for a critical review? My own initiative, then I try to publish it, or should I look for a journal that is requesting a critical review? Okay. I'll take this question. Please remind me. I'm writing it down right now. Marib says how to do with a critical review from Marib. Okay, I'll take this question in the QA session. Okay, where did the chat go? Rahma says screenshot it. Ah, there you go. Yeah, you know, dinosaurs like me, I'm a very old-fashioned person, so you high-tech folks, you can help me with that, yeah. All right. Here are some excellent sentence starters. Once again, a big thank you to the University College London website. I'll just read out the first 2 or 3 that will give you a good idea. This is how you start your sentences in the evaluation section. This argument is not entirely convincing as blah, 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 blah. Let me go back and tell you that example. Remember when I said that an MA student had said that the women were depicted negatively in that book because in many of the pictures, they are showing women from the side, you know? So in that case, in my evaluation section, I can write that this argument is not entirely convincing as showing a profile picture is by no means a sign of disenfranchisement or negative depiction, something like that, right? Okay. And this one, over the last few years, the view of blah, blah has increasingly been viewed as complicated. Once again, let me refer back to an example I gave you earlier. If somebody was trying to sell me to the grammar translation method, something that has been discounted like decades ago, I can say that over the last few years, the view of using grammar translation method specifically to the exclusion of other methods has increasingly complicated. You see, I think like these sentence starters are excellent like scaffolds for us to build our critical review around. And once again, these are only some of them. If you go to the original website, University College London website, there are many, many, many more sentence starters there. Okay. I think that's about it for the evaluation section. Any specific questions about the evaluation section before we move on to the conclusion? We're actually going to do a practical activity. We are going to do a little bit of reviewing ourselves. Thank you, Hassam. Thank you, Rida. Okay, Asmahan, thank you so much. Let's keep going. So part 4, the conclusion. What do we do in the conclusion section of our critical review? Thank you, Rahma. Okay, let me see. In the conclusion section, you write everything written and your overall evaluation of the text. Okay, so this is almost like the concluding paragraph of an essay, right? That's what we do. And has the author achieved the objective or objectives that they set out for themselves? Okay. Because even if they conducted a very good study in every way, they did not achieve their aims, then pretty much that article is, I wouldn't say, I mean, it would be too harsh to call it useless, but I would say that there's something else that needs to be done before we can call that article very, very useful, right? And does the work make a significant contribution in the field? Okay, we have to mention this again in the conclusion section. And your final comment. This could be anything, okay? This could be a suggestion for future research. This could be like a summary of how the article can be improved, or anything, or a direction of future research, anything, okay? That's the conclusion section. And here are some conclusions. Again, a big thank to the University College London for these sentence starters, okay? Now is the time to do something ourselves. Okay, let me just, I have something for all of you. Just give me 1 second. Now is when we actually put our knowledge to use, the practical part. Okay, let me open this for you. Share screen. All right, everybody, I want you to follow the instructions you see on your screen right now. I want you to go to socrative.com or download the app, okay? Click on student login and then enter the room name, Adel 8481. After that, you will be asked to write your name or name, and then I will start the activity for you, okay? I will wait until everybody is in the room on Socrative. Okay, Hussam says they're in. Anybody else has managed to get into Socrative yet? Who else is on Socrative? You will see a bouncing green ball or something like that once you enter. Okay, let me put the timer. Muhammad Salah says he's in. Let me put the timer. I'll give you all 1 minute to get on Socrative. Marib is in. Khulud is in. Welcome, welcome. Samia is in. Awesome. Omar just got there. We have 40 seconds to go before I the instructions. Okay, Manal is in. Welcome, Manal. Muhammad is in. Alan is in. All right, Rawan again. Oh, two different Rawans. Okay, Ali is there. Okay, I'll wait for the others to join in. In the meantime, let me give you the instructions. And for that, I have to share my entire screen with you. Okay, just, okay. Screen, share screen, come on, share screen, where are you? Oh no, I'm lost. The dinosaur's lost. Where do did I do something wrong? Oh, come on, don't do that. Where is my top bar? Something is wrong here. Ah, I'm back. All right, so share my screen. Can you see my screen now, everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so on Socrative, this is what you'll see. You will see some texts, some real texts these are not complete articles, okay? These are just parts of some articles. For example, this is going to be one, there's going to be text A, there's going to be text B, text C, there'll be 4 different questions, okay? Now, this is your job. After each text, you will find 4 possible critical reviews, okay? And remember, they are not like complete critical reviews in the sense that with an introduction and summary and evaluation and a conclusion, not in that sense. It's mostly just evaluation of the text, all right? Your job is to match the text with the correct evaluation. Once you see let me open Socrative, it's going to be easy to understand. So there it is, Socrative. Oh, I see Manal is there. Where are the others? Oh, there you are. So for example, here's question number 1, for example. You read this text. I think everybody can still see my screen, right? Dalal, it's Adel 8481. So for example, text 4 possible reviews, A, B, C, D. You have to match it. You have to tell me which one is the correct evaluation of this text. And then we will look at each evaluation one by one, whether you agree with it or not, okay? So I will stop talking now and I'll give you all 6 or 7 minutes to do this, okay? Socrative, there you go. Share Socrative. Or I could just share the entire screen because I want you to see the timer as well. 7 minutes for this. By the way, everyone, don't worry about the time. If you want 1 or 2 extra minutes, we can have extra time. Okay, so don't be worried about that. Okay. Muhammad says, very interesting task. Mr. Rubai, yes, it's perfect. It's nice. It's really good. And by the way, if you want, you can do the activity again. You can leave the room and enter again and give it a second shot. It still works. Okay, I can see that many have finished. Madam is finished. Asmahan is finished. Safa is finished. Okay, so I'm not going to close the activity. Okay, I'm going to keep the activity open for those of you who are still doing it. Okay, but I want to have a little bit of a discussion. Okay, in the meantime. So first of all, what do you all, do you have anybody has, does anybody have any comment about the first one, or do you agree with it completely? Most of this stuff will go in the evaluation section of our critical review, right? And this is how it will be written. Okay, I'll wait for a few seconds if anybody has any comments regarding this section. Okay, iPhone is satisfied with number 1. Okay. Any comments about number 2? Any disagreement or anything else? Kamada says, I was misled because I felt that these reviews were not well written. Yeah, that's entirely possible, Madam. Maybe your way of critiquing would be completely different from the way of critiquing by this person, whoever it was who wrote these. So yeah, it is subjective, definitely, Madam. Even when we claim that I have evidence, blah, 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 but it's it's possible to have different viewpoints based on that. So yeah, Marif, entirely. Rahma said the same thing. Yep. So for example, just as an example, if possible, either Rahma or Marif, can you give me an idea about how you would have written a critique of either number 1 or 2? Or would you justify the point which was written by the original authors? Okay. If you have any contribution, you can hear. Comment number 3. It is publicly acknowledged. Questions have also been raised. Critics especially question. I like what the author was trying to do here. Oh, I think somebody's mic came on. It was Ali. Ali, I'm going to mute you because I think that's a mistake. Okay. All right, so nothing here. Anything about number 4? No? Okay. So that means we are. Samia says, I've never thought of using the passive voice as a way to misleading readers. Yeah, good point. Good point. As you can see from this real life example, it does happen, right? Yeah. All right. So that's all about Socrative. Let me go back to the slide again. We've done this. Just a very quick review of the aims. We have learned the purpose and structure of a critical review. Okay, the purpose is to look at the strengths and weaknesses of an article. And the structure is introduction, summary, evaluation, and conclusion. And the second aim was we had to practice reviewing parts of academic texts critically. We have done that on Socrative, so I would say that we have achieved both of the aims. And now I will take your questions, everybody. To iPhone, I'll take your questions. I will start with the questions that were raised initially during the session, which I did not address. One from Khulud. Which article to choose? Khulud, are you still there? So my answer to this question from Khulud is that it depends on what you're trying to do, okay? For example, if you are writing an article, oh, by the way, I just realized that Madhav's question is also about the same thing, pretty much, yeah, directly or indirectly, but here it is. Number 1, for example, if you have to write a critical review for your assignment as an assignment at your guidelines, but other than that, you can just randomly screen through different articles until you find one that is interesting and just review that. Or if you want to get your, and this is what will address Madhav's question, like what to do with it and publish it. If you want to get your critical review published, because there are some journals which specifically have a section for published book reviews, for example, okay? In that case, you should read the guidelines of that journal, because many times they will have specific themes for specific issues, okay? So for example, maybe there will be one issue, one volume that will focus on, I don't know, vocabulary teaching using technology. So you have to make sure that to get your paper published, your review published, it has to be reviewing an article which is on the topic, okay? So I hope that my answers have addressed Khulud's questions. If you have any follow-up questions, you can ask me now, or you can send me an email. By the way, I will write my email here. Shayma says, thank you for the information. I have a question in general literature review. If I couldn't have evidence that disagrees or argues with an article, what can I do? Okay, this is not specifically about a critical review. This is about a literature review, but yeah, yeah, Shayma, that's entirely possible. There will be many, I mean, we don't have a duty to find fault with each and every study that we put in our literature review. You know, there will be many studies which address the questions in the way we want them to. So we can cite them as examples of the way, like a recommended way of investigate phenomena that we want to investigate. So yeah, you don't have to find fault with that. Rebay says, some profs asked to criticize a high quality paper which has no weak points. You know what, Mr. Rebay, I would answer this in two ways. Number one, there are always points worth reconsidering. And secondly, if you think that there is a high quality paper which in your eyes has no faults, that is an excellent learning opportunity for you to put your professor on the spot. And you say, you know what, professor, I personally, my Weltanschauung, my worldview, this is a perfect article. How do you disagree with me? And whatever your professor tells you will be an excellent learning opportunity for you. Yeah, Rahma says, can we critique our own writing? Of course you can. In fact, Rahma, some universities actually have that as an assignment. Did you know that? Yeah, we had something like that in England when we were doing our PhD. Like you write one assignment and then later after a year or two, like you have to write a critique of one of your own studies or one of your own articles. So yeah, because as we become better and better in research, when we look back on our previous work, we find many things which we think we could have done differently. So yeah, definitely you can write a critical review of your own article. Yeah, you can do that. Arub says, can personal opinion be used in evaluation or summary, or it's not subjective in writing a critique? You know what, Arub, that's $1 million question, because if you ask me, I think that and this once again brings up a question of your worldview and how you look at research. I'm not talking about the sciences, for example, but in social research, okay, there's always going to be an element of subjectivity. And the best way of addressing that, just so that we do not become like that movie critic who wrote about the movie It Stinks, you know, to avoid that, the more objective evidence we have for our subjective feelings, the better it is. Okay. Oh yeah, by the way, here's a link as shared here. You have to fill in the attendance, everybody. Muhammad Salah has a question. I have a question not directly related to the topic, but to workshops in general. Is it possible that a workshop about writing and annotated bibliography gets prepared for a later workshop? You know what, Muhammad Salah, I will send this as an email to Dr. Kamal and Dr. Basim. And yeah, they'll do it, inshallah. Hopefully they'll set something up. Shema, you're most welcome. Thanks for your nice work.
All right.
There's a link to the YouTube channel. Yeah.
Thank
so
you
that's
so
all
much,
from me, everybody. If
Dr.
anybody has
Adel.
any more questions, you can send them here. Yeah, most welcome, most welcome.
Thank you so much for this wonderful, detailed, and informative workshop. I'm truly sure that most of those attendees have gained a lot of information about how to write a critical review, especially those students who are pursuing their PhDs or masters. And I myself honestly have, got a lot of this workshop. Thank you so much, Dr. Adel. And thank you so much, all the attendees, for your participation. And I have posted for you 2 links. I'll repeat them again here. One is for the attendance certificate. So this will be posted again, just to make sure that you still. All right. Just give me a moment here.
Haneen says, where can I download the PowerPoint of this workshop, please?
Yes, we will post it, inshallah, by the end of this night, and you can find it on our Academic Writing Center YouTube channel, and I have already posted the link of that. You can go back to the chat box. Just let me.
Yeah, I think they also want to download the PowerPoint. I'm not sure if the
slide.
I think Academic Writing Center Yeah, the slide. I think Academic Writing Center makes them available for everybody or just for staff. I don't know about that.
Well,
So we can confirm that with Dr. Basim later, okay?
let us find out.
Yeah.
Will be, you know, available on
All right.
the YouTube channel under
Yeah.
the link, if we could post it there. So,
Okay. That's all from my side. I'm checking out everybody. Hind says, can you repost everything, please?
yes,
Yeah, it will be
yes,
on the
I'm
YouTube
in the
channel.
process
You
of
can see everything.
posting it again. Just give me a moment here.
Most welcome, Omar. Most welcome, Amira. Most welcome, Haneen. And most welcome to iPhone. I don't know who that is.
Okay, so
Most welcome, Shayma.
here are the two links. The first one is for the attendance certificate. Just fill it out. The second one is for the Academic Writing Center's YouTube channel. You will find the previous recordings, okay? And additionally, we will upload, inshallah, by the end, hopefully by the end of this night, today's workshop. So you are all welcome to log in and watch it again.
All right, everybody. This is goodbye from me. Ma salama.
Thank you
and
so
have a
much,
nice,
Dr. Adel. We enjoyed your workshop. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful night.
so much, sir.
Most welcome. Ma salama, everybody.
مع
Thank
السلامة.
you. Assalamu alaikum.